Howdy, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It's about that time. This is something that the TheShareGroup has been thinking about for quite a while. We've had lots of coaches attend and participate and contribute. We've had lots of successful realtors. We really haven't broken down a specific list segment, a lead type out of the TheShareGroup catalog and said, let's do a deep dive on this workshop. And so that's exactly what we're going to do today. And to encourage you to stick around, we got a few things to share with you. This is the most well-defined segment in the United States, with an inferred motivation to transact that gets greater every day. So think about that. Not only that, but this is the most affluent group of people that you can speak with that would have a home to sell. So let's put this all together. It's very affluent in cash and in equity. I'm going to get into that. With a motivation that only increases every day in a segment that's well defined for you to be able to speak with them in your own neighborhood. So it's bigger than absentee, which is very successful, and it's less well known than the public lead sources. So I would consider that anything off of MLS, anything off of the courts. So probate, divorce, expireds, FSBOs. I think we're well beyond all of that. So we're excited that you're going to be here. I've done a lot of research on this topic because I need to go into your shoes and say, what is it like and what would entice our clients to participate and really go after this market with us so that we both succeed. And I think I'm going to lay this out for you super clear. So you're going to be excited about something new. The headline in Orange County where I live today was home sales are down 20%. That's tough. And there's obviously some headwinds that we have in interest rates and other things. But this workshop, we're going to talk about specifically what a downsizer is, how much competition there is, why do they downsize, how big is the market, how do you get started. We're going to cover all of that today. Let's talk about what are downsizers. I have a clip from a coach that has been tremendously successful, has helped hundreds of our clients talk really about this market. So I'm going to let him kick it off for us. Brandon Morenin.
And a lot of economists are coming out saying this demographic is going to grow. It's downsizers. These people that have homes that are free and clear, they raise their families. So they raise their kids are now they're empty nesters. They're off to college. They're 65 years or older, so they're of retirement age. The home is larger than the typical average home. Oftentimes that master bedroom being on the second level, not the first level, and then being in the home for 20 years or longer. We know, oh my gosh, we know that group of people, the likelihood for those people to want to sell, get on one level, get into a ranch style condo is so high. You do the same thing that you do with circle prospecting. You go into a target market that you want to serve and you start to sort out your list and you say, okay, instead of me calling these 10,000 random homeowners, maybe I call these 3,500 that meet this list, right? And we see dramatic changes in conversion. So much so, instead of it being 50 to 1, like circle prospecting, we see a 10 to 1. Meaning, when agents do demographic prospecting, it takes them 10 conversations to generate a high quality lead. And so again, we've all heard work smarter, not harder. This is the best example of that. Another huge.
Okay, everybody got that? That's Brandon Morenin, one of the top coaches in real estate. His company is ReverseSelling. I encourage you to go take a look at his videos on YouTube. He talks a lot about downsizers, a lot about absentee. And so let's move on. So very clearly and quickly, downsizer is usually somebody 65 plus. Empty nester, we define it in our database, at least 80% equity or higher. And they're motivated to sell their home for one of several outcomes: funding retirement, getting a smaller home, getting closer to family and friends, or just escape a changing neighborhood. Think about this, that neighborhood that they moved into, they chose it for affinity. They chose it for comfort and for convenience and for kids. In 20 years, all of that has changed. The people that they were living with have moved away. Maybe they're the last original owners on that block. That's a real thing. The people that they identify with, the community and the neighbors, has all changed. Do they adapt and do they love being the oldest folks on that block with young kids going up and down the street around the cul-de-sac? If they do, God bless them. That's awesome. You want to get them to tell you that in the first conversation. But if they're tired of it and they're ready to get to a place where they can have family and friends closer, and certainly more people of their generation and time, there's pockets and concentrations of those people in neighborhoods that I'm confident you can help them find. So it's getting out of a changing neighborhood for sure. And that's what I'm seeing in my peers who I grew up with, Foothill Ranch, California, 20 years, 25 years, all the folks that are there getting a smaller home closer to the ocean, don't care about schools, just want to have some lifestyle that they certainly are entitled to based upon that successful living. So these are the big undercurrents, which says that this is going to be an exploding opportunity for you, which is less interest rate sensitive than any other market you can talk to. So we've seen this. The seller's average age hits a new high. It was 63. It was 47 in 2005, and it's the oldest on record. Same thing with buyers. You see how the buyer's median age has gone to 56 from 31 in 1981. So that American dream of the home is not the aspiration it was for people who were born in the 60s and 70s. The people who were born 90s and early 2000s don't have that same ambition. They like having liquid cash and opportunity to spend money and experience things versus buying and investing in that home. And there's a big payday coming for those folks. We'll talk about that as well. Okay, characteristics of home buyers. Think about the first time home buyer is down to 24%. They can't afford it. They just cannot afford it. Cost of education and costs of homes and interest rates make it harder and harder to be a first-time buyer. 24% of transactions last year, first-time buyers. It was as high as 50%. All those new home buyers, first-timers in just 15 years ago, it's cut in half. That's a pretty crazy statistic. So let's look at this generational summary at a high level. This is from the 2025 NAR survey that they did. So silent generation 80 plus, those are folks that are going to be, if they're still owned, they're going to sell very soon. The boomers are often in two categories, 61 to 79 and 70 to 80. But you can see if we just look at sellers, the darker color, 22% and 31, 53% of sellers are going to be over the age of 60, in the past year. So that's a pretty significant statistic. And it says that our marketing, our outreach has to be to that older segment than we have been working before. The affluent folks at 30 to 40, the first-time buyers, they're gone. There's fewer and fewer of those than there were when maybe we were realtors 10 and 15 years ago. So let's talk about the competition around this, because I really wanted to understand this as well. From the realtor's perspective, what is it like? What does it take to get that listing? I'm going to say there's very little competition. It's just from two statistics. Number one, only 40% are going with an agent that is a friend, neighbor, or relative. And 50% of these come from those folks who are doing their first time. So the first time buy, they're going to go with friend, family, or neighbor, which means they're going to trust somebody. And friend, family, and neighbor is not a credential for a successful realtor. I think you know that. Let's see if it gets any better. It sure does. According to the National Association of Realtors, 80% of sellers pick the first agent they meet with. So 20% have the discipline, the patience, and really maybe a stamina is a word, to interview 2 or 3 or more agents. I took this off of Daryl Speaks, another great coach, off of his catalog. But should you interview several agents? Absolutely. Would you get more information and be more intelligent about hiring an agent? Absolutely. Do they do it? Heck no. The first person who makes a great impression is going to be the one that they go with 80% of the time. Now, in researching this topic, I think this is exactly what ShareGroup clients who do a lot of outbound marketing have discovered. And if you haven't picked it up already, you need to know that this is a case study for my most successful agents. How many agents did you interview before you did your listing? This is right off of Reddit, a comment that was left. None. As a seller, I went with a guy who caught me, I don't know how, maybe Zillow, maybe a cold call. We met and I wasn't ready to sell. He followed up every 3 months. And one day I was just like, okay, I need to send a kid to college. So they make that decision. They've already hired the realtor in their mind. They're not going to go back out and say, hey, who else should I talk to? Who did you work with? Who has the best statistics in my market? They're doing nothing analytical or really research minded to make this happen. They're going, this person seems good. They found me and they followed up. I'm going to do my listing. It's the right thing to do. It's rewarding that follow up. And for the folks who are going to do cold calling, which most of our clients do, we are creating opportunities that are going to create real transactions for us 3, 6, 9 months from today. The campaigns we start right now are going to make our fall and early winter super successful. Same thing with spring, of 26. Okay. So aging owners is where you want to be. 60%, the 60 plus folks are 29% of adults, 44% of homeowners in that category. I don't think we'll ever see this again. 80% of the 60 plus crowd owns a home. They're going to be a third of the population, and half of all homeowners will be 60 plus in the next decade. We're now just kind of early on this, but it's going to continue to get better and better. And the folks that are the 40 to 60-year-old, those folks, they're actually going to have more affluent money passed down to them to buy additional homes, second homes, and larger homes, even after they inherit what they get from their parents' home, if that's left to them. So these folks are flush with cash and equity. Now, this is really surprising. I came across this article 3 years ago. If you think about the folks who are 60 to 80, their parents grew up coming out of the Great Depression, where fear of breaking through the bottom and having no social security, having no social benefit meant that there were a lot of hungry folks and a lot of financial desperation. And coming out of that, they had a work ethic, they had a savings ethic that created this, which is just incredible. So this is out of Wall Street Journal. Older Americans giving away 35 trillion. So baby boomers and older Americans have spent a decade accumulating an enormous stockpile of money. At the end of this year's first quarter, Americans age 70 and above had a net worth of 35 trillion. That's 27% of all wealth is held in their hands. And to compare that, what's the benchmark? It was 20%. This amounts to 27% of all wealth, up from 20%. But you compare it to the gross domestic product, which is 157% of gross domestic product, more than double the proportion it was 30 years ago. So savings as a percentage of the economy has doubled in 30 years. That means we oversaved. The 60 to 80s oversaved because they knew what real financial hard times were about. They didn't want to go there. They had the discipline for decades of buying that home, paying it off, and then continuing to save for this really, really terrible financial outcome that could have happened because they saw their parents live through that. So that's what we're talking about. And that transfer of wealth occurs between now and 2040. The next 15 years, that 35 trillion gets handed down to kids who don't have the money or the income to buy homes now. So there's going to be another huge cycle coming out of that. Okay, so why are they selling? So this is like, what do we talk about with a senior who could be a friend of our parents or a neighbor? And why are they doing it? What's the win for them? You've heard Brandon say the second story bedroom, super undesirable. I live in a community where we have about 20 homes, which are single story. They are hot properties. As our community ages, the single stories are super popular, as you know. But they want to unlock equity for their retirement. They want to have lower monthly expenses and more financial flexibility. Here's the key. Closer to family and friends is the big win. Sometimes you get better health care, but if you think about it, nobody is moving closer to grandpa, grandma. They go where the jobs are. They go where their kids will be happy. They go to the communities and the climates that they want to live in, and then visiting takes place. So the person who's going to move, who can move, are these downsizers, the folks that are 60 plus. And it's easier to move closer in proximity to a couple of grandkids. You've got them in Utah and Texas, got them in Colorado and Ohio. You find a spot that makes sense, and that happens, pretty regularly. So that's why they're selling. That's the enticement to go through this transition, which is sometimes very, very difficult. We also need to know why they won't sell. And all of it is fear-based. the fear of running out of money, the fear of a monthly payment when my house is paid for. Sure, I pay taxes, I pay insurance, I pay repairs. There may be something we may have to waterproof the basement. We may need to redo all of those home maintenance costs are kind of incidental and they feel discretionary. But I certainly don't have a house payment and I haven't had one for a long time and I don't want one. So, and sometimes it's just a matter of spending any money unnecessarily is self-indulgent and just not of the nature and the character. Not always. And I think that you're going to find that in the 70 plus, harder, under 70. I'm seeing a lot of aggressive moves where people are going, it's time for us to move out of this community and let's go to a place where we can play golf, where we have more family and friends available, and we can get to the beach or other lifestyle things, which are nice amenities that we didn't have when we were growing up. So the other problem is they just don't need to. And so that's where when we talk with our realtors, they're going for the no. So I like this intro. So, Bill, it sounds like even if you could find a home that you could also pay cash for after you sell your primary, that you wouldn't move because something, right? Even if you could move onto the golf course and find a home that did X, Y, and Z, you probably wouldn't do it because of what did you say? What was the reason? I want to know. So you want to go for the no and find out are they committed to the no? Because that's easier than sometimes getting the yes. Would you like to talk about selling your home? No. Yeah. It sounds like you're going to stay there forever and then let your kids deal with the home after the fact, right? Is that what the plan is? Those types of questions, can come up. But going for the no means you get people who have that opportunity. But that introduction and the other thing that happens here, that introduction and the follow-up that we talked about, a few slides ago, the cool thing about that is if you do get the chance to meet them and they're an absolute no, when something happens, there's a fall or there's a change and it's overwhelmingly compelling now to make that move. We just got over the hump for an unexpected event, grandkids, something else. Who knows what the change is, but it comes about from different vantage points at that age. And you can say, we don't want to drive anymore. Dad can't drive anymore. Where's the best place to live? We want to sell that home. So we want you to be the name that they call when that happens because you've earned that right. You've done that work in the background. You found the downsizer, you connected with him, and you followed up. And now there's been a change. Let's talk about it, just like we saw happen. Okay. What's the seller's snapshot? So 20%, 26% of the buyers on the seller side paid cash. That's kind of interesting to look at. Closer to family and friends, home size isn't right, neighborhood declining. I call that change. There's a lot of change that's happening through these generational homes been around for 25 and 30 years. It's not the neighborhood they moved into. It's not the neighborhood they want right now. So the senior seller insights, take a look at this. So 79 and up, the most anxious and interested and most common to sell. Moving closer to the family and friends. And certainly we have these homes and expenses and taxes that never go away and they're too large. High ownership rate. The only reluctant to sell can occur. So let's look at the statistics here. 17%, 8% have already done, 9% are planning to sell. So you got 17% that are all in on selling, just a matter of timing. 27% said they might sell. That means that there's not enough information or evidence that says I'm ready to go right now, but they're definitely leaning that way. What's going to happen with the 27% and the 56% is that they're going to find that reason and that opportunity. It's going to be compelling and it's going to be overwhelming that we have to find a place that meets some lifestyle accommodation that we need now. And nobody plans for that, and they certainly don't move in advance of that, but it's happening all the time where you have your kids nearby and now they're both gone. And why don't we live the place where we want to live because they're not coming back here anyway? We're going to go visit them. So the 56% that say they will never sell, that sounds like a go for the no opportunity. They're going to live there forever because the fear of a payment or running out of money, even though we know that's pretty unlikely. So now I'm going to take the data that we've just covered and I'm going to make some conclusions and some of them will turn the data on its head. So half of your listing prospecting has to be for people over the age of 63. If you're only in line with the average, think about that. So if you want to skew higher, you could have all of it be there and you know what percentage of the market is available for you. 75% of these new buyers already own a home, so they're going to get a lot of equity. So financing is not that big of a deal. Here's the cool thing too. 60% of these buyers will not use a realtor from family, friends, neighbors. So that's a pretty big opportunity there as well. And 80% of these pick the first agent they meet. That's you from our list making the call. And sort of like all of these big trends, either your family and friends are moving closer to you or further away. And I think we know what the answer is. They're definitely going to be moving further away and not closer to where the seniors are living today. So that accommodation is something that needs to be made, and it's a tough decision to make, for sure. A few more conclusions. The longer they stay, the less they like the neighborhood that they're in. It doesn't get better for them there. We know that. 47% of these 61-year-olds are open to or planning to sell. That's really encouraging to figure that out and start that conversation. And the average tenure is now 16 years there in the home. So if we say, hey, what are we looking for? 70 plus, 16 years, 100% home ownership. That's somebody who's going to pull the trigger. If they don't have a relationship with the realtor, it should definitely be with you, because there's some other good reasons for that, and I'll get to in just a second. So 9 million downsizers. So for fun, let's take a look at just a few markets here. So I did Kansas City, suburb of Philadelphia, Portland, Atlanta, and Dayton. We're going to look at 16 to 19% of these are downsizers that are available to you, and they are everywhere, and they're in surprising places. So I downloaded every downsizer count by zip code in the United States. And then I compared it to all of the homeowners there just to see what percentage of the market is available in that zip code for each of you. Before I get to that, I'm going to call this the cream of the downsizing market. So this is 70 plus age, 15 years, and we have hundreds of demographics that we can use to create your own custom list, which can include condos, single family, sometimes two-story if the information is available in that county. It's not always reported. But this really top cream of the market here is over 70, 15 years in their home, 100% equity. You got 12,000 in Kansas City, in Johnson County. That's a suburb there. Again, Philadelphia, 18,000 in one county, 12, 11, 15. Tons of prospects available for you. So these are the largest downsizing markets, and this deck will be available. The replay will be available so you can capture this information. I have some take homes for you as well. But these are the total number of downsizers, the largest number of downsizers. Probably not surprising, the villages. You have people who live there for 15 years who own it and are in that age category. I don't think they're moving anywhere else. I don't know how, I'm not an expert on the villages, but that's just kind of an assumption about that. But look at Brooklyn, Staten, El Paso. It's everywhere. West Virginia, Texas, Kentucky, Chicago, El Paso again makes the list twice. So this is just the total number of downsizers in a zip code and then the total number of homes. And you can see as a percentage, it bounces around. Kind of cool. So this report will be available to you nationwide. There's like 30,000 zip codes, and I'll pull out your market and I'll send you your counts that, that would be appropriate for the one you want to look at. And Sudip, you're a great customer. I know you raised your hand. If you want to turn your mic off, if that's available, you can ask a question or you could punch it into the chat, whatever you'd like to do. Okay, most fertile downsizer markets. I looked at just the, I don't have headers on. Let's do this again. So downsizers, total homes, and percentage. So this is which zip codes have the highest percentage of downsizers compared to the total market. And you can see 40% in two Jackson, Mississippi zip codes, 30% and above. So these are the top 20 markets just based upon pure density of downsizers, which we define as at 60 plus, 80% more or equity, no kids, 15 years plus in that place. All right. So level set, the downsizer market. I think it's pretty clear. Hopefully I've made the case for you today. It's abundant, 9 million records available nationwide. They're really not as tech savvy and they're not as trusting of the internet. They probably shouldn't be. I heard a story today about, I think it was a CEO of Instagram who almost gave away his personal identification and his sign-on to a scammer for his Google account. So these aren't tech trusting savvy folks. They're likely to sell and then buy again. That's going to happen. So there's double-ended transactions where they go to the home. That equity just affords them to purchase another one in the spot where they want to be now. They're not going to interview multiple agents, and their neighborhood, family, friends network at 65, 70, 75, where there's not as many neighbors who are working and should get that business or would be likely to get that as it is, in your 40s and 50s. So what are we going to do now? Here's what I suggest. Let's go get some leads. So we have the ability to find all of the folks that are in these categories, either a custom list or our downsizer. I just grabbed Santa Ana here, but create an account at shop.theshare.group, shop.theshare.group, and maybe one of our folks can put the store link in the chat. That would be awesome to go in and look at the downsizer leads that are available, for them. 100% of these have phones. Any phones that are disconnected or no longer in service are replaced, at no cost, as they always have been. And let's just talk about doing some outreach for those folks so you have some context around that as well. So I think number one is phone calls. Okay. And here's the thing I want to think about. If you're like me, your inbox is filled with passive marketing systems reliant upon paid ads, social media, email, organic search, paid search, third-party calling. All of these systems are designed to do one thing. And that one thing is to get you to talk to that seller. So to talk to the market. So we think about that. Why not just talk to the market rather than try to get to find them, entice them to fill out a form, to take a phone call back from us? But the phone call is the way that most folks are having most success in this downsizer market. So why? Why does this work? So personal connection and conversation happens quite easily. Seniors tend to be more receptive to these phone calls. They appreciate politeness, patience, and personal touch. Let's call it mid-morning. Let's call it early. Let's avoid dinner time. But telephone calls to the downsizer market is a great way to identify those folks who are going to sell in 3, 6, 9, 12 months. What are some other ways we could get to them? We could do direct mail. Lots of folks are successful with direct mail. You can obviously, in a share group lead, you're going to get name, address, city, state, zip, phone 1, phone 2 where it's available, email where it's available. All of that's going to happen. Seniors like the mail. It means credibility in a larger font with a picture that shows affinity for the market and your knowledge of the local market. Direct mail is a great way to create awareness. And a phone call after the direct mail, probably a great idea as well. Okay, what else can we do? Email, probably least effective. Emails are not 100% populated in any database, and it's probably the least accurate. Address, name, phone, we got it locked down. Email, a little bit more difficult to catch a great email, and then even harder to get a response. So the response rates, phone number 1, direct mail number 2, email certainly number 3. So let's talk about if you did calling to downsizers, and this is a whole separate topic which we've covered about cold calling metrics and results. Let's just talk about what does it take to generate a business through cold calling. Now, Brandon said 10 to 1. Let's say it is 25 to 1. It's not 10, but it's 25 to 1 response rate. That's still super, super good. So this actual is a snapshot out of a spreadsheet that Coach Jake Dixon shared with us. And this spreadsheet will say, how many calls do you want to make a day? And how many days a week are you going to work? And what's your average conversion rate? How many units are you going to sell? So dials per day turns into deals per year based upon your effort and your expected, and then ultimately your learned or experienced conversion rate. So I will share that with you as well. We have an actual toolkit for each of you that will give you the deck, it will give you the counts, it will give you the spreadsheet, and it will also give you 27 video clips that we've compiled on the topic of downsizers. So you're going to have everything you need after you get ShareGroup leads and a phone, and you're going to see listings happening for you because all of this is super tight and proven to be effective. So this I created today from conversations that I've had with other folks who are in this market. I think you need to be ready to listen. You need to be able to address irrational fears. So I have friends and relatives who are going through this transition. That home is 30 years old and they're afraid to sell because they have to clean out their life. They have to downsize their lives before they can downsize their home. And that means getting rid of a lot of things. So there's irrational fears around that. There's irrational fears around financial issues. I think I would have a financial planner. If they don't have one, I would have a financial planner in my pocket that I could refer because I would want them to have confidence that if they took the equity and went to another home or went to a rental, and if they go, well, it looks like you have 40 years of in rental covered, is that more than enough to make you comfortable to make the move? So having a financial planner you can partner with, that you're not a part of those conversations, but just give them the green light to sell the home, take the equity and go to a better place for their upcoming and most beautiful years, why isn't that a good thing for everybody? But it's not going to be as simple as somebody who knows, who has a financial planner, who knows how to move, who knows how to make it all happen, and has no concerns about navigating all of this transition on their own where they want you to do one specific thing. I think there's a creep into these other areas that makes you a real partner and a confidant in a difficult transition that you're going to lead them through. And I think it's a great outcome. So you have to be ready to react when that event occurs. And that event could be we can't do stairs anymore. We had a family right down the street from me who put in an elevator. They didn't want to move. So I think they should have moved and they could have moved, but let's put an elevator in, and that was a temporary solution to a problem. So you have to be ready to discuss those pros and cons also of leaving the home to heirs or selling and getting to a place that is much easier to manage, live in, and better for their lifestyle, friends, and family connection downstream. That's a great service to your clients, certainly into the community. So that's why we love it. Okay, so we're just about to wrap it up. The Downsizer Toolkit. So if you'd like this, we have these 17 clips from coaches and authoritative sources, including realtors and coaches on the downsizer topic. We have a file which we'll share with you on your ShareGroup account. You can go in right now, create an account if you don't have one, and look at how many downsizers are in zip codes around you. But the more deeper dive is to give you kind of the best zip codes in a broader market that would allow you to focus on the most fertile places where there's more and more downsizers. And as those migrations happen and move out, those are great people to chat with. I mentioned earlier this calculator, dials, conversations, deals, commissions. You put in all of that data along with the average transaction price and whether you have, a broker fee or not. And it tells you exactly how much you should be making based on those conversion rates. That's a cool tool that we can share with you as well. Okay, that's it. We knocked it all out. We did it in 35 minutes. I'm not sure if there are any questions that I could cover with anybody. I would be happy to do that at this time. If it comes into, if you want to put it in the chat, I'd be glad to handle that. Otherwise, our team is going to get busy on creating this little kit for you, and we'll send that out to you in the next couple of days. And then I think it's going to be a great outcome for everybody. So I would love to have your feedback. If you want to email me, I'm tim@theshare.group. You probably received the invitation invite to attend the webinar today. We're excited to have you as partners in this journey. We appreciate your business. And I think next time what we're going to do is we're going to tackle, in a few weeks, we're going to tackle the absentee owners as another really productive segment. So can we hear from Jason? Let's see.
No, that's okay. I was trying to jump into the chat, but it's currently disabled, which is fine.
Okay.
Just kind of curious to know what a conversation like how this would go. Do you guys have scripting for this at all, or?
Yes, we do. We have downsizing script. That's the last piece. So we do have a downsizing script, but to be honest, of all of these kind of inferred motivations, whether it's absentee or whether it is the downsizer market, um, there are some excellent coaching tips at from Brandon Morenan's YouTube page. So I would look at his videos.
Okay.
Anything that I would have to say would be a derivative or attributed to his work. But the simple conversation is I work with senior homeowners who have been in that neighborhood for years and years. What I'm seeing folks that have been there 25 years who are moving out as the neighborhood has changed. And some people are just much more direct than that. I help folks go from their primary home that they raise kids in to find a better place for them, in retirement years. And I know everybody's horizon is different, but would you be open to having a conversation about selling your home in the future? And
Yeah.
some people go straight to that. My name is, Blake Wallace. I've been a realtor in Minneapolis for 30 years. I've helped hundreds of families. I'd like to know if you're open to conversation about selling your home.
That's easy.
People appreciate direct and honest, and it
Yeah.
seems to get the results because you kind of want that no anyway. And after the fact, if you've made the effort to make that call, here is your real win. Would it be okay if I added you to my email list and just kept in touch every 30, 60, or 90 days? And then you get that email into a HomeBot or some other follow-up drip email marketing that allows you to stay in touch passively, but also monitor their engagement. Because when they start looking at home values and looking at homes that are selling or looking at other homes that are available for sale, it's your cue it's time to make a phone call again. And that's so helpful. So that phone call is always a win if you walk away with an email and have the opportunity to do some programmatic, scheduled, non-personal follow-up that allows you to monitor their engagement as well.
Okay. No, that sounds great. And just as a side note too, I did purchase the non-owner occupied ones.
Yeah,
I forget the name of
absentee.
it. The absentee owners. Yeah, actually, I went through my first list of about 50, scheduled a listing appointment with someone who lives in Virginia. I'm in Minnesota, and they did their research on me, and I was able to get that listing, got it sold in a week. So that was off of about 50 calls.
Wait, you got one deal
Yeah.
in 50 calls?
Yep.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Appreciate
Okay.
that. Yeah, I was very excited about it.
All right, I'm going to need a short video from you, and we'll talk about that. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, love it. Thank you. Okay, so Kelly, do you have a
Yeah.
question, Kelly?
Yes, the go for the no script, is it gonna be in there or could you repeat it slowly? I like some of those go for the no thing.
We have content on that. Do you know who your account executive is?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you know who your ShareGroup account executive is?
Bill, I think?
Phil. Okay, yeah. Phil will get you some more go for the no information. It was a video that we did with Blake Wallace, Max Stalinsky, and Brandon Halpern in April, where they talk about that. But yeah, we can get you that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Jason, we're good. Kelly, we're good. Are there any other questions that we can answer for you while we're on the call here? Love it. Hey, I'm so thankful that you were here. We had a good time doing this. We also appreciate feedback. So if anything you have to say about what we could do better, differently, or in the future, we're all ears and love to be able to help any way we can. So thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. Happy selling, and hopefully you sell 1 out of 50 like Jason did. Have a great day. Thanks, everybody.